namaste, and good evening. How are you all doing? And how are the winters treating you? It's cold, nice, and cozy, isn't it? Yes, it is. So now, what am I bringing to you this Thursday? Yes, it is time for Thursday for Toys. And today, that we are going to talk about is the golden days game is what I called, or the olden day games that somewhere we have forgotten through the years, and some games are also on the verge of being extinct. So let's get them back for our children, and I'll let you know why it is important, right? So when I say Lagori, Kancha, Gilli-danda, Kho Kho, oh my God, recognize any of these names? So if you're in your 40s or 50s, I don't want to mention your age, but yes, the mere mention of all of these games, I'm sure is going to evoke nostalgia for the summer days that you spent playing outdoors with friends. We all miss going outdoors, but the same thing can be created for your children in this lockdown at home too. So, but will children of this generation have the same memories? Most likely not. Why? Because most of the time, what are they doing? They just spend their time playing video games and they are just in the virtual world. There is no real world, there's no real connection, there's no um, social connection or anything as such. And this addiction has brought the classic Indian games and many other games to a brink of extinction, as I said. And sports and games have always been a part of an integral part of India's rich culture and history. But sadly, today's kids are so engrossed in playing video games. How many of you, believe with me or agree with me? Don't you? Right. So today's games, you see they are so much in their video game. They are either just their head is down, or they are, they're not even blinking their eyes. Their eyes are always constantly right on that screen while playing. While the traditional games like Palaguzi or Kabaddi or Gilli-danda, all of these have been completely forgotten. And gone are the days when kids would simply they just couldn't go out and play a few rounds of pittu or hopscotch with their friends. Now this reduction in physical activity, you know what? Has given rise to a host of health issues in kids. Earlier, I think we did not hear about uh, you know, type 2 diabetes in children or thyroid in children, but all of these have become so common in children these days. Why? Because of this reduction in physical activity. Therefore, reviving these traditional games, will help uh, and will they will provide a host of health benefits to the children, right? So why are traditional games so important for children, right? So this is not necessarily something negative. It's not that playing in front of the computer is always bad or playing on the video game is always bad, but sometimes we will find our children completely abandon these traditional children's game that we have so much to offer. And as always, neither extreme is recommended. So it's great that children have fun with new technologies, but they should also find enjoyment with their parents at home and in the street with their friends, playing all these classic games that have entertained so many previous generations. Do you agree with me? Yes, then do type a like or a heart. So I know that yes, we are on the same page and you do agree with me that these traditional games are very, very important. So these games can be, the games that I've always mentioned to you have always come across as the ones that will give an overall development to the children, right? So any the games that I'm going to be mentioning today, all of these, if you see, they have a great benefit. So they require physical activity, so there comes your physical and motor skills, social skills, so your social development is taken care of, creativity, imagination, competition, right? All of these, so your emotional and even your cognitive skills are taken care of. And just not these, there are so many more. So quite simply, traditional children games stimulate their growth physically as well as intellectually. So let they will also help them to make more friends. And what could you ask more for, isn't it? There was a time when I still remember these this cartoon that I had seen, where the mother, in the olden days, the mother would pull the child back home, saying that how long are you going to be playing outside? And today's mother is pushing the child out, saying that go out and play, don't be at home. Isn't it? See, this is the change that we have seen, right? And the best traditional games to show your children are which? Okay, so the main attraction of classic children game is that generally you do not need any much expensive equipment. Most of them do not require more than imagination and willingness to have a good time. So it is also important that most of these games are group games. Okay, so if there is not too many people in the house, it can be just the family that you are sitting together and playing. So which will mean that, as well as simple rules, and it's fast paced, and they allow children to interact with each other, and there's so much of bonding. There's talking, laughing, and sharing experiences, and all of these are essential for their growing up. Also, they are safe, right, and will not normally require adult supervision unless it is a game of, say, marbles, and they're like really small, and you need to keep them away. But most of it do not require adult supervision, but as adults we need to see what games children are playing. So this, by the way, will help children to interact more naturally and more fluidly. So the games that I'm going to mention over here are the ones that you will remember as I say, and you can give this to your children. Okay, the first game that I'm going to mention is the five stones. So if you remember, or it is called Gutte. Okay, so Gutte is a fun that can be played by both adults and kids. It's the best for your fine motor muscle movement and eye-hand coordination. It's a wonderful game for that, and of course your cognitive development. So this generally requires either five pebbles, or you can just collect five stones. There is no limit on the number of players who can play at any given time, right? So the players just need to spin up a stone in the air. They throw a stone in the air, and they try to gather the remaining stones lying on the floor with just one hand, without allowing the one in the air to fall to the ground. Isn't it? This is the most fun game that I used to play during my school times. And oh, wow, wow, wow. I used to enjoy it to the bit, right? So and there are steps in that. So first you just pick up all, and then you pick two together, and then you pick three together, and then you pick four together, like that. So you can play with the five stones in this way, and the one who finishes the steps in minimum number of tries is going to be the winner. So you can give children nice stones that you get, and these days you get such beautiful pebbles that are put in the aquarium, and also you get these nice colorful ones, and you can give this to your children, and they're going to love it. And see, this is a game that you can sit in the house and you can play. All right. And then the next game, I think I had spoken about this in one of the earlier sessions of Thursday for Toys. That is the Lattu or the Top, right? It's one of the most popular game, right? And even today, but I hardly see any child playing it. So I just see them the Beyblades and all of those, the spinning wheels that come. That is what the children are playing these days. Instead of that, let's bring back our old tops, which were made of clay. Then later it came as wooden tops being used. Okay, so today we get these nice colored and even designer tops. You can give the children to paint the top as well. If it's just a plain wooden top, you can just ask the child to paint it in his favorite color. You can put the favorite character on that. Okay, so that is one activity that you can do. Now, if it's for a smaller child, I'm sure, because for them, to throw the spin the top, it may be difficult. So for a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old children, you can just teach them how to tie the string and how to undo the string. Again, see what are the activities that you're doing. It involves your fine motor movement. It involves your eye and hand coordination. There's so much. So there's a string which helps the spin the top and also lift the spinning, right? So again, you can have 2 or more players in this game. Now again, if you're not inviting people at home because of the given situation, you can play with your child, and it is just stringing, and then unwind it by pulling the string and make the top rotate on the ground. So the player who stopped spins the longest is obviously declared as the winner, right? So again, in this, You can see a lot of fine motor movement, the eye hand coordination, and then the way the top has to be for put on the ground so that it doesn't fall down. So a lot of coordination is going on between uh, the child's mind. So imagine how nice this game is and what benefits this game brings. The next game, I'm sure we all have played this, is the hopscotch game, right? Or it's called a stapu, or so many names that are there for this game, and we just call it a simple hopscotch. So, what does this game involve? It just involves drawing a grid on the ground and numbering it, right? So, the players take turns and throw an object. So, usually we have a stone or something like that, one small object, and on the blocks, we number the blocks, and we have to just hop across the blocks to pick the object. So jumping on one leg, and generally for smaller children, like say a 3 or 4 year old, we allow them to jump with two on both the legs because they cannot jump on one leg. The later ones, they turn around 6 years to 7 years, so you can teach them to hop on one leg, right? And they finish the lap, so they ensure that they do not step on the borderline, they do not step on the number where they have thrown the dice or the stone, right? So much again over here, we learn that this is a gross motor activity, it is a proper physical skill activity. We are looking into eye leg coordination, and when we have to throw to the number, it is eye hand coordination. So imagine the amount of development that takes place when children are playing this simple game, that is the hopscotch. Then another game that we all love, that is the dog and the bone. So you may tell me that dog and the bone we generally play outside, but yes, it can be played inside the house as well in a small space. Dog and the bone is a kids game that contain two teams or five or more. So that is when you have a bigger space and you can play around over there. Or just within your house, you in a small space, you can just draw a boundary of circle around it, and put a handkerchief in the between. All right, it can be a handkerchief, it can be a stick, it can be just anything, and you can just play the music. And the when two of you are there, you ensure that you just pick the bone at the right time without being caught by the other player. Isn't this fun? Don't you want to play along? Yes, it does bring a lot of happiness. So again, in this game, if you see, there is eye hand coordination, eye leg coordination, looking at the other person, what his aim is, trying to catch him. So there's so much of coordination that is going, there's so much of thinking, there's so much of planning that is going around. So again, imagine, physical development, language development, cognitive development. There are a lot of things that are taking place while playing just this simple game. And then how can we forget Chopat? These days we have made it into Ludo, right? So Chopat is again another game which can be, you can just sit in the house and you can play with the children. So it is about 6 7 years or children who they can learn that simple game and you can play with them. Then comes Palanguli. So if you've seen Palanguli, it's a board game. There are 14 cups in the entire game, and it's the seeds, there are 6 seeds in each cup. Okay, so the player distributes these seeds into the other cups, and they have to ensure that there are no seeds left in the cup. So this is another game which will improve their intellectual thinking, problem solving skills, all the skills that I have always mentioned. Okay, so what is happening today in today's game? So as I mentioned, all these nice games which you can, these are the traditional games which you can sit in the house and you can play at the given moment. Now it is Christmas time, it's holiday time. I'm sure you have the long weekend off. You can spend your time with your children playing these beautiful traditional games that I just mentioned to you, right? So, all of these games had some good strategy, and they have a nice history and a character development to all of these. But these days games, they are just so fast paced and they're very predictable. I remember there were certain games that would take days to finish. We wouldn't leave that game until we finished it. Do you know any such game that you played and it took like at least 2 3 days to just complete that entire game because it was getting so uh, uh you know interesting and it just kept on playing. You can please write down in the comment section that which were the games that you felt where you played for days and months. And these days, it's become like our cricket 2020. First we had the 5 day test series, which became into 1 day games, and then now it converted into 2020. So we are just going into fast pace these days. And while today people are playing games, they just play for a week, then they are bored and they change to another game, right? So we need to look into a lot of other things that will bring back all of these memories of our traditional games, because our traditional games have always and always offered a lot and lot of thinking for the children, a lot and lot of development for the children. These were simple games, as I mentioned, inexpensive games. I'm sure you wouldn't have spent so much. There are no batteries that you need to put, there is no charger where you need to charge, nothing of these. It was just plain simple fun. That's it. So I'm sure this holiday season you are going to play a lot of traditional games with your children and they are going to have fun playing these games. Please, please do introduce these games to your children and let me know how it was. This is Hiran Bagadia signing off. And before I sign off, I want to thank Small Wonders and Parent Station for giving me this platform, for putting across this wonderful Thursday for Toys review in front of all you wonderful audience. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to me. See, Merry Christmas to everybody. Take care. Stay safe. Namaste.